When selling your property, it's a good idea to make sure that you're legally allowed to do it. I'm Dawn Isenhower with Sibcy, Cline, Realtors, and I'm running into this issue a lot lately in this market. So, our purchase contract states that the seller also represents those signing this contract constitute all of the owners of the title to the real property and other items as listed in Section 6, which includes personal property, together with their respective spouses, if applicable. In the event of power of attorney, trust, corporation, limited liability company, inheritance, or other right to transfer, documentation of authority to convey the real estate shall be provided to the title company upon request. So, as a listing agent, when I'm getting ready to do some research on a property, the first thing that I do is that I pull up that property on the auditor's site to see who's in title. And if the name of the person who contacted me as a potential seller doesn't match the name of the person who's in title, we've got a problem. And it'll be up to that person who called me to prove that they have power to sell that real estate. Had a real interesting title issue where the original seller did have a right to sell that real estate on behalf of the deceased seller, but then the beneficiary passed away. So the beneficiary, that person who was appointed, didn't have authority to sell on behalf of the beneficiary's estate, just on the original estate. So we ran into some problems, and it took weeks and weeks and weeks for that to be resolved. So my buyer had spent money on inspections, an appraisal, a structural assessment, and a septic inspection. That's a lot of money that the buyer put into that property in good faith, thinking that at the end they'd have a house. And to my knowledge, that title issue still has not been corrected. So we had to move on to a different property. So as a listing agent, that's the first thing that I look for, although in that situation, things had changed drastically in just a short amount of time. So that was a little more difficult and challenging. If you are in doubt as to whether you have power to sell a property, contact an attorney. It's the first thing that you should do anyway to make sure that you are going to be able to sign off on a sale for that property. So when in doubt, always contact them, because you want to make sure that any of those issues are cleared up prior to the property being listed. Again, buyers spend good hard-earned money on this process. They're getting their loan processed, they have inspections to pay for, they have a loan application fee, which is usually the appraisal, to pay for. So they've got a lot of skin in the game during these transactions, and we want to make sure that they close and the buyers end up with a house and the seller ends up with equity in their pocket. Again, there are complex cases like the one I described where circumstances changed midstream, but for the most part, get your ducks in a row before you go and list a property. Because again, the buyers are spending real money, and I think a lot of times we forget that. So do your due diligence as a seller. Make sure you really do have the legal authority to sell that property. These trust situations are popping up too, where the house has been put in a trust and a child is the actual owner of the property, even though the parents are still living. So, and the parents, even though they occupy the home, don't have a legal right to sell their house. So just make sure those ducks are all in a row before you go and list a property or present it to the public as being for sale in the case of a for sale by owner. If you have questions about this topic or any other, please feel free to contact me at 513-236-1254 or private message me. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to subscribe. Thanks. Bye.